Imagine coming home after a long day, making yourself a toasty, leaving the machine out for 1 hour to cool down, and your roommate loses her mind. Not because it was in her way, not because it was broken, not because it smelled, but because it was sitting on her worktop. A worktop in a shared kitchen that she does not own. That was the moment we realized we weren't just dealing with a difficult roommate. We were dealing with someone who had decided, quietly and unilaterally, that the rules of this house only applied to everyone else. So we made a decision of our own. If you have ever been betrayed by someone you completely trusted, someone who flipped the script, played the victim, and walked away without a single consequence, this one is for you. Hit that like button, subscribe if you're new here, and buckle up. Because this might be the most quietly devastating, beautifully earned revenge story we've ever covered on this channel. You're standing at a microphone. The lights are warm on your face. The crowd is buzzing with energy. And somewhere in that audience, frozen, jaw tight, unable to move, is the man who cheated on you, threatened you, and tried to make you feel like nothing. And you're about to sing every single song you wrote about him directly to him. He can't walk out. He can't say a word, because if he does, everyone will know exactly who those songs are about. If you have ever been betrayed by someone you completely trusted, someone who flipped the script, played the victim, and walked away without a single consequence, this one is for you. Hit that like button, subscribe if you're new here, and buckle up. Because this might be the most quietly devastating, beautifully earned revenge story we've ever covered on this channel. For nearly 3 years, she had been in an on-again, off-again relationship with a man we'll call Marcus. And from the outside, Marcus seemed fine, decent even. He was charming in that quiet, understated way. Not flashy, not loud, just steady. Or so she thought. She'd noticed the patterns over time, the way he would pull back emotionally whenever things got too real. He was avoidant. Commitment made him nervous. Vulnerability made him shut down. But she told herself, people can grow. People can change if they want to. And she genuinely believed he wanted to. So when they found their way back to each other again, as they always seemed to do, she came in with her eyes open this time. She sat down with Marcus, and she was clear. Direct. She told him, if we're doing this again, it has to be different. You need to go to therapy. You need to work on your patterns. I'm not doing another cycle. And Marcus agreed. For a while, things were good. Really good. She let her guard down. She started to feel safe again. That particular kind of safe that only comes when you've been hurt before and you're finally daring to believe that maybe, this time, it's different. Then the text slowed down. Then the calls stopped coming. Then, nothing. Days passed, then a week, then more. That sickening silence where you check your phone obsessively, crafting and deleting messages you're too proud to send. Where you lie awake at 2 a.m., running through every recent conversation, trying to find the moment things shifted. Where you oscillate between something must be wrong and I think he's just done with me. And the space between those two possibilities is absolutely excruciating. He was ghosting her. After 3 years. After promises. After she had explicitly, clearly laid out her boundaries and he had looked her in the eye and said yes. He just disappeared. Months passed. Then the truth came out, the way ugly truths always eventually do, through a mutual friend, a careless comment, a detail that didn't add up. Marcus had been seeing someone else, not after they ended things, during. While he was agreeing to therapy, while he was showing up, while she was cautiously, hopefully rebuilding something with him, he had someone else on the side. The ghosting wasn't confusion. It wasn't fear. It was a clean exit once the other option was secured. She confronted him. Now, here's where you need to understand something about Marcus. because this moment reveals exactly who he is. A decent man, when caught, feels shame. He might get defensive, sure, but underneath that defensiveness is the weight of knowing he did something wrong. Marcus didn't do that. Instead, he did something that anyone who has dealt with a manipulative person will recognize immediately. He flipped it. Completely, seamlessly, without missing a beat. He made himself the victim and made her the problem. Why was she checking up on him? Why was she so insecure? She was too intense, too demanding. She'd pushed him away. This was her fault. Darvo. Deny. Attack. Reverse victim and offender. It's a psychological manipulation tactic, and Marcus executed it like he'd been practicing for years. Maybe he had. And then he threatened her. Not metaphorically. He threatened her with actual violence. She felt it in her chest before she could process it in her brain. That cold drop of adrenaline. The way your body registers danger before your mind catches up. 3 years. She had given this man 3 years of second chances, of patience, of believing in him, and he was standing here, threatening her. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She looked at him steadily, the way you look at something you're finally seeing clearly for the first time, and she said, "You are a small person." Then she walked out, and then came the invitation. An event. A major local sports event, one that Marcus trains for the entire year. His thing, his community, his people. She was asked to perform. Let's sit with that for a second. She is going to stand on a stage at his event, in front of his community, and sing every song she wrote about him, while he sits in that audience, completely unable to react. Because what is he going to do? Stand up and say, "Hey, that song is about me"? Confirm to everyone exactly what he did in a small community where word travels like wildfire? He will have to sit there, still, controlled, performing normalcy while every lyric lands like a precise, unhurried reckoning. He'll have to applaud, probably. Or at least, not applaud. He'll have to watch the people around him enjoy the music, maybe even sing along, not knowing they're watching a man be held completely accountable in public while appearing entirely untouched. That is not an accident. That is artistry. And then there's the album artwork. A collage. Striking, layered, visually complex, the kind of thing people zoom into and study. And there, somewhere in it, is a figure. A man, dressed in adult clothes that somehow look like a small boy's. The posture, the details, specific enough that he will know immediately, with absolute certainty, that it's him. Not specific enough that she can't simply say, "I don't know what you're talking about." Plausible deniability. Perfectly constructed. He called her small once, through his actions, through his cowardice, through the way he handled her. She took that energy and she immortalized it in the cover art of an album that people will be looking at for years. He will be furious. She knows that. She's not pretending otherwise. But the most exquisite part? His fury will be utterly, completely useless. He cannot use it. He cannot direct it anywhere. The moment he opens his mouth to protest, he confirms everything. He becomes the story he was desperately hoping to avoid. All he can do is watch and know. But alone? She was shaken to her core. This wasn't just heartbreak. This was something deeper and more disorienting. The collapse of a perception. The person she thought she knew had never existed. The trust she'd invested. The vulnerability she'd allowed herself. It had all been handed to someone who didn't deserve a single second of it. She went through the motions of the days that followed with that particular hollowness that trauma leaves behind. The kind where you're functioning, you're speaking, you're present, but there's a hum of disbelief underneath everything. And then, a few days later, something strange happened. A melody surfaced. Not something she went looking for. It just came. A line, a feeling, a sequence of notes that seemed to hold the exact shape of what she couldn't put into words. She sat with it. She followed it. And then more came. Words. Melody. Verses that articulated the humiliation, the grief, the rage, the exhaustion of loving someone who was never really there. She had always been able to sing, but she had never written. Never felt the need, maybe. Or maybe she'd never had something this enormous demanding to come out. She wrote through the nights. She recorded rough demos on her phone. She found collaborators, producers, people who heard what she was making and recognized something real in it. Here's the detail that makes this story cut even deeper. Music? That was his dream. Marcus had always talked about wanting to break into the music world. He'd wanted that career. He'd spoken about it with that particular longing people have for the life they imagine, but never pursue. She hadn't set out to take anything from him. She was just surviving. But somewhere along the way, she built the thing he'd only ever dreamed about. 2 years of work. 2 years of writing, recording, refining. 2 years of turning her worst experience into her most authentic art. And then she released her debut single. It hit the radio. The local station. The one Marcus listens to. She doesn't know exactly the moment he heard it for the first time. Maybe he was driving. Maybe he was at home. Maybe he heard the opening bars and didn't realize, and then the words started and something clicked slowly with growing horror. Because she wrote the truth. Every detail, every dynamic, rendered beautifully, undeniably, in a song that was now being broadcast into the air of their shared community.